the judges and all the participants here I am standing as the first speaker of the opposition side. The motion says that this House believes that history textbook should be focused on teaching bottom-up historiography rather than the top-down historiography. The definition that given by the proposition side is totally right. It says that historiography its methods or perspective and approaches used to write and interpret history, and the top-down history refers to focus on the roles of the leaders, government, and major institutions in shaping history, and the bottom-up historiography focuses on roles of ordinary people, social groups, or grassroots movement in shaping history. And then let's move to the status quo. The status quo is some of the school uses textbook for teaching history to their children or students. They use that because they have to teach their students to know about the history that should they know. So to make it easier for some school, it's teaching up the teacher use the textbook. And can you imagine if there is no textbook, the teacher will have the difficulty to teach up their students because they not have the materials to teach to their students. And what's the problem of this school? Some of the textbook in school teach up more than bottom-up historical more than the top-down historical, which is they teach the roles of the ordinary people, social groups, and grassroots movement in shaping history more than the roles of the leaders, government, and major institutions in shaping history. And will make the students are misunderstood. Why? I can say that because they'll think that the changes or the work can be started from the grassroots or the ordinary people, which is totally wrong because changing something in a country needs a model. They need money, they need strong position to be the winner, and that is not something that ordinary people have. Proposition will say that changes has to be changes by the grassroots people. But let me explain. Who's gonna move the ordinary people when it's not the government, leaders, or the major institution? Everything has to be led and started from the top down, not the bottom up. So our stand from this motion that says about this House believe that history textbooks should focus on teaching bottom up historiography rather than the top down historiography is. We are not firmly not agreed and not gonna accept that motion because the reason is the changes is bring up by the leader, not by the ordinary people, and we want to let our students have the understanding that changes can be moved by the grassroots, which is the statement is totally wrong because when we want to make changes, we need the leaders, we need the agent of the changes that is having the strong position, and all of that things are not owned by the ordinary people or the bottom up people. And to have a strong position, we need the major scale further. And it's not owned by the top-down people, but it's owned by the top-down people. And then, let me explain what our rebuttal first. The proposition says that they are just the top-down, the bottom-up historiography will teach up just one in link chain, and it's not romanticizing the individuals, which is a great mistake because of it is not only one link chain. The actors that tells about top-down history is more than just one actor, and it will involve anything in the history. Imagine if we have the study from the bottom people, such as the social groups or the grassroots people or the ordinary people. It will be hard for us to search up the sources. How many people that should be asking just for search up the sources? How many perspectives that do we get from that many reason? And how we can make it all of the perspective sources being in one conclusion? Imagine just for one history, for example, is Independence Day of Indonesia. We have more than one perspective. One perspective is from Sukarno, from the social groups, public, or opposition teams of Indonesia, which is Japan. If we talk to them from one to one, it will be hard, and it takes a long time for us just for search of the sources. But we only have a little time to summarize all of them because the student will need it as soon as possible for learning. And imagine if we take a long time just for searching the sources, and the student didn't have the time to study because of they never bring up the materials, and they just gonna graduated with that one without that one historical knowledge. And I'll say that book writers have the different perspective from one to one, and they will write the book with a different book, and it will be good because the student will study with one more than book, and they will get the different perspective from the other writers. And then the opposition also say that changes is coming from the small scale and going move up to the province scale. But in the problem in as status quo, I've said that The small scale will not move anything or do something without the move from the bottom up people. And small scale will not get the strong position without the authority from the top down people, such as the government, the leaders, and the major institution. They need the support from the major institution and not gonna be moved before the major institution of the government is moved for them. And what's the burden of proof of this motion? Imagine if our students are studying that changes doesn't require from the top down side. They will be misunderstood and think that the government is have no role in this country or the world. It's such a pathetic situation because of they will think that government is not important in this world and they will be more not respect to the government. The impact is the people or the student that will be more grown up and the people in this country will be more dictator and to the government and aggressive, and it will make the world is so hectic. So because of that, our argument that I've said before, we from the as a first speaker of the opposition side, we firmly not agree with the motion that says this house believes that history textbook should focus on teaching bottom-up historiography rather than a top-down historiography, because the changes is bring up by the leader, not by the ordinary people, and we won't let our student have the understanding that changes can be moved by the grassroots, which is the statement is totally wrong, because when we want to make changes, we need the leader, we need the agent of the changes that is having the strong position. So and after the things not owned by the ordinary people or the bottom up people, and to have a strong position, we need the major scale supported and it's owned by the top down, not by the bottom up. So we firmly not agree with that motion. Thank you.